sitting dying in the light, seeking freedom, a beacon in the depth of night. From a world of cheers to a silent flight, in the gears my fears and the moons of light. Headed to the border, I hope a few. Every road, every corner brings something new. From the city's by hue to the skies of blue, midnight's cool dew. I found my core, from the jump to the chain to the day to start. The Ukraine gang where there's fire spurred. With some heartbreaker now, it's my concern. In this life shake aware.
Ukraine and Ukraine can't deny that I'm detained. In this game, in this pain, my spirit is not drained.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk Podcast with Adam Maxwell from WWIII and Professor Red Pill from Straight Talk Podcast. So we're here today again. We're gonna try to do this weekly, every Wednesday, between 9, I guess between 8:30 and 9:45 or 10, around that window, my time. Which basically join us each week about this time. Until we get like a set time, so to speak. But you can guarantee that we'll be here every Wednesday night to discuss, leadership, geopolitics, economics, and basically collapse 2025. Hashtag collapse 2025 on Twitter, on all your social media sites, because this is the collapse that I predicted. It is happening. We're in it right now. The first hiccup was in the end of first quarter that I predicted last year. That I said that first quarter we would see the first hiccup because of the Trump, obviously the tariffs that came. We saw the first hiccup with the crypto market, 30% correction, give or take. And then the second hiccup was the Dow. We went down with 10% almost, right, Adam? Give or take. I think it was 10% over the year. It was over 10% for the year, just recently, like in the last week. And it's recovered since then. But we're going to see another hiccup, I believe, by summer. This is not financial advice. This is literally for entertainment purposes. And I'm a data analyst. I know my stuff. I'm a professor, a very prestigious university in Europe. And I've been teaching as a professor for going on, almost 15 years now. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. I've been predicting this collapse since 2014. Published many articles on it on LinkedIn, been deplatformed as a result of it. And I said China and the United States was going to collapse in 2025, or at least see some type of economic turmoil as a result of some kind of trade war or World War III type scenario. That's basically what I want to discuss today. He'll talk about some economics, and if we get into other things, we can. But I do think my timeline, before we get into this, first quarter correction, crypto market, Dow, which we saw. Summer, we're going to see $50 barrel of oil. We're going to see oil go to $50 a barrel, I believe, from the data that I've done. We might see negative oil prices by the fall. I think we're going to possibly see a 1929 style crash in the market in this fall, probably in October. It's usually when they happen. And we're going to see another hiccup in the summer. And the hiccup for the summer, this is all happening within 2025, by the way, guys. Usually we will see this over a longer timeline, over a longer period of time. But we're like I said, I predicted we would see all this in 2025 because of all the different QE to infinity, gimme dats, COVID relief, all this stuff, the bond market, quadrillion derivatives market, BlackRock, everything going on. It's all culminating to like a perfect storm of shitness, basically economic shitness. And we're living in it. We're eating the shit sandwich, and we're going to have to deal with this great reset that is going to happen in 2025. Like I said, hashtag collapse 2025. But I think we'll see negative oil prices in the fall, followed by basically a major market correction, possibly a 1929 style crash. I think by summer we're going to see a AI digital bust or AI bubble, like .com bubble. But we're going to see, like I said, we saw the crypto bubble that popped. We're going to see a housing bubble that's going to burst in the summer, I think, followed by a .com bubble, or not .com, but like basically AI bubble in the summer, followed by 29 style crash. I had some slides and some previous stuff that I talked about that I did predict it. I will show it later. Things that I downloaded from previous podcasts. If we get to it, I don't really think it's necessary because you can go back to the podcast and you can see that I know what I'm talking about. And I did predict these things. That's well-winded. I said what I want to say. Let's go on to Adam from Liberty Rising. His link's in the description for his link tree, and he is a member in the Telegram group. I do link his a lot of his posts from his Telegram group and the Straight Talk podcast, Straight Talk news channel. This particular video for CensorTube is in the Straight Talk news channel with his link to his group. So take it away, Adam. Thank you.
Just before I get started, did you have a prediction for Q4 of 2025?
Yeah, Q4, basically at the end of Q3 is when I think we're going to see the fireworks. I think we're going to see the fireworks, and by end of Q4, we might see World War III. And like I said, with World War III, I'm thinking it's going to be digital. It's going to be basically information age style hybrid war. It may be internal. I don't think we're going to actually see nation versus nation. I think it's going to be Marxist versus the fascist, like World War II, ideological, but it's going to be internal within each like trade zone. So like I'm predicting that by the end of the year, we're going to see European Union internal struggles, China with its internal struggles, where the CCP is going to get toppled because of the economic turmoil. The people are going to revolt. There's going to be a color revolution in China. I think there's going to be a color revolution in the United States. I think there's going to be a color revolution across Europe. And the only place that's going to get spared is probably Africa, because like I said, they've been bypassed by all three industrial revolutions. This is an industrial revolution war, proxy war, digital age, hybrid war that is going to be technological, advanced, and who knows? I'm not getting conspiracy here, but it might be premonition. What is that word that we look?
Premonition?
Premonition or pre-programmed. This may have been set up by deep state, big people already. But the data's there. I've looked at the data. I've done the data analysis. I've been following this as a sociologist. I'm an expert in sociology. And I study people, and I study history, and I study trends. I study the 100-year trends through historical cycles that a lot of experts in economics as well as in sociology, that we see these trends and we see that they typically do. They're like in patterns, and they typically kind of repeat. They're not like the best way to explain it in academia is history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And I'm taking a quote from somebody that I don't remember who said it, but we know that basically it is what it is. So what do you want to add, Adam, in that? Anything?
Well, I think I don't agree with you on some of these predictions, and that's perfectly acceptable. I find my worldview is more measured, analytical, much slower. I think that China is authoritarian and it does have systemic issues, but I am not of the belief of an imminent collapse narrative or of the idea that China is evil, full stop. I do think that China is a rival castle, a rival political power center to the United States, and it is the main rival. And as such, the natural thing for the United States to do is to shift towards China, and it had no business whatsoever in provoking, in fact, engineering a war with Russia. That's what they did. They've wasted time, resources, hundreds of thousands, some may even say millions of lives, especially of white Slavic Orthodox Christians in Europe. And I think this year the war in Ukraine is going to hopefully come to a close. I think by summer, end of summer, or by fall, my hope is that the fall of the Zelensky regime, and then we go on to the next phase of, you describe World War III. I would say, sure, I think we are in a stage of World War III, however you wish to call it. It's a Cold War type. Right. Certainly, things have happened. Do we say the war began, like this world war began in February 2022 with the Russian invasion of Ukraine? Could do, maybe. Do we say this war began in 2021 with coronavirus. Maybe. Certainly, the world has been changing a lot in these dynamic 20s.
Do you want my analysis? Sorry to cut you off, but my analysis of where I think it began, the pinnacle. I think it began in the Bush era with the War on Terror. That's where I think World War III began. Shortly after the 91 fall of the Soviet Union, created markets of epic proportion where, you got Clinton came in, and Clinton's administration did all kinds of policy changes, repealing the Glass-Steagall Act. He basically collapsed, like the gutted the Russian Federation and the post-Soviet countries. There's a lot of stir up in there, with Kosovo and all these different situations. There was we're talking about Georgia was 2 years war with Russia, and there was a lot of stuff going on. But I think it began right around the end of 91 after the Soviet Union collapsed, but it really juggernauted in the Clinton administration and to the GW administration. That's where GW or this Bush Jr., his administration under Dick Cheney. This is where it went. They had three different things that they wanted to focus on. They wanted to focus on the control of the internet, censorship. That was one of the pinnacles. This was from my professor's words. He's retired now, but I studied him at Evergreen State College, same university that Eric Weinstein was a professor at, and I studied under him as well. So yeah, the first thing that he had said is that basically they wanted to focus on censorship of the internet. They wanted to focus on the information, or like the technology, so like space, what is the SpaceX and Space Force and all that stuff. They were planning that beginning, and then they wanted to control energy. So these were the three things, and Iran. So Iran was part of that energy policies, and you can see it here in Georgia. I'm in Republic of Georgia, and you can see the city skyline behind me. They built this country. The United States helped build this that we see today here where I'm at right now. This is a lot of US, like $6 billion in US aid, EU money, outside investment from Middle East and from all over the world that has poured into this country and developed it. But the reason why this country is the way it is because they had a color revolution under Saakashvili, and that color revolution was funded by the US State Department.
What year?
To put, I want it around 2004-ish, give or take.
Yeah, I think 2004.
Yeah, and during that period, the reason why they came to Georgia, the reason why the Bush administration wanted this country as a strategic location, a military strategic location, was because of its strategic location to the Middle East, to Iran and Afghanistan. And they built the base up here. They put all kinds of different military things in here, and it was mostly to build up as a non-NATO outpost. That's unofficial. Anyway, that's basically what the Bush administration did. They poured a lot of money into the country. They provoked a war with Russia during the Ostedian conflict. As you remember, that was in 2008, during the housing crash. And then, of course, that's when the aid started pouring in, was the $1 billion in aid that was guaranteed to help rebuild after that. And then the rest is history, basically. So that's what that was the beginning of this World War III scenario, because the Bush's agenda was to push NATO further into Russia, even though that Russia and the United States were both working on, they were both working together for the war on terror, quotations, but it really wasn't a war on terror. It was basically, let's build NATO and let's expand further towards Russia, and let's create, stronger ties with basically Russia's former territories under the Soviet Union and Russian Empire before that, and let's get stronger ties with Central Asia and get into these octopus type tentacles all over the world to control commerce. And that's basically where we're at now. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's long-winded, but continue, Adam. Sorry.
No problem. Your speech reminded me of a song by Immortal Technique called "The Cause of Death," where he says, "Jealous of our freedom, I can't believe you bought that excuse." word to ground zero, the devil crept into heaven, God overslept on the 7th, and the New World Order was born on September 11th, 2001. So you say Bush, 2001, however you wish to say it, certainly these are epochal shifts. I would think that it's not George Bush, it's not Tony Blair, it's not Vladimir Putin. It is the US deep state, the neoliberal, neoconservatives, neos. It's the entire system, and Bush, snakehead, and Clinton and Obama, snakehead, and Trump, snakehead. Trump, I think he's more incompetent almost, more of an idiot sometimes. Although, sometimes I appreciate being direct. It's clear to see that I can disagree with Trump and I can find him incompetent, but at least he has some executive leadership, despite the fact that there's errors here and here and here. I can critique him for an hour. Biden had no executive leadership because he had no executive function, because he was a demented puppet. And so you just had, who was really in charge of the United States from 2021 to 2025 or 2020, 2024. I think they're still in charge, just it's a different flavor. They just, instead of being blue, they're now red, and vice versa. So yeah, I don't envision massive changes like this so soon. I remember listening to Peter Zeihan in 2021. He's a Department of Defense CIA asset, by the way. And he was saying how in 2021, Lebanon could collapse overnight. You think this nation of, I don't know, China, for example. Well, things can happen like that. And, the world conception you have in your mind, it's not necessarily fixed and constant. Here's what I think's going to happen this year. And he was full of cow excrement, because he's literally the Department of Defense propagandist. But the point remains that if you want my prediction, I think that it is logistically, it becomes harder and harder to sustain a losing war in Ukraine, where the United States wants to pull out. Now, to be clear, if Trump really wanted to pull out and end the war tomorrow, he could. He would just end all support for Ukraine, say, not my war, but instead he continues to supply, he continues weapons, and continues to support with intelligence, etc. And so he's continuing the conflict. But I think that you can see he's not happy with it, but he's also continuing it. Again, I can critique him. I can call him, the president of the United States, and I'm not a fan of the ruling class of the United States of America. But I don't see this war being able to continue into 2026. It might. You can keep it going. This is one problem that a lot of people have. They say, if Russia's one of the greatest militaries in the world, why can't they just destroy Ukraine in 3 days? I say, do you know the size of Ukraine? Do you know the size of their military? Like, it's not like you're invading Liechtenstein. You're fighting Ukraine. It's a massive country. It's a massive population.
Roughly the size of Texas. It took Gonzalo Lira, may rest in peace. He rode on his motorcycle, and I remember I drove that as well. I went on the bus, and I went from Poland, from Czech Republic into Kiev, and it took, I think the bus ride was 12 hours, and just from Lviv to Kiev it had to have been at least an 8-hour trip on a bus. So I think it's all there. He drove pretty much across the whole thing to Kharkiv, which is in eastern Ukraine, which is where the conflict is right now. And I think he did, I want to say he said 10 hours, give or take. It's a huge state, man. It's a huge country. It's one of the largest countries in Europe.
Yeah, other than Russia, it is the largest country in Europe. And the other thing is, if the Kremlin wanted to Oreshnik the Ukrainian Rada, they could. But this is, for all intents and purposes, a civil war, right, of the former Soviet Union. But B, this is a fraternal nation. This is a neighbor. This is not bombing Yemenis in the desert. This is Kiev.
War on terror. Yeah.
right, Kiev is next door.
War against, yeah.
After the bullets stop, there's peace, diplomacy, economic ties. If the Kremlin decapitated the Ukrainian leadership, A, it sets a terrible precedent, but B, they're going to have to invest considerably to rebuild. Maybe just the territories that they conquer or that they win. And maybe there will be pressure for them to rebuild and invest where they don't not govern. There's another word for it, but where there's not govern. It's the level underneath. Administer. Maybe they're pressured to invest in territories they don't administer. Whatever the case is, they're being strategic about it. They're being economic about it. This is an attritional war, and attrition is a long, slow, grinding game. Not game as in it's all fun or fun at all. There are hundreds of thousands of people dying. There are millions of lives being destroyed. Arguably, if you factor in the economic costs, this has hurt billions of people. I don't think anyone has not been affected unless I don't know how Lesotho is doing. All right. So I think that this year, the war in Ukraine comes towards an end, and America has said we are positioning or repositioning to pivot to China. These are the main rivals. This is the greater geostrategic rival. And it's my belief that China is not evil. I don't think they're at risk of imminent collapse. I do think there are systemic problems, as with all authoritarian, totalitarian, especially socialist states. However, I believe that you can critique China for being an authoritarian communist state. I can also critique America, England, the European Union for these same things, and I believe that at least in China, there's a greater discipline. There's a worldview. Whereas in the West, here's where I'm going to end. You said you think this war is going to be between the Marxists and the fascists. A, who do you mean? And B, is the European Union Marxist or fascist or both? Like what's going to go on there?
Well, look at the UK. Look at what's going on there. Look at what's going on in Germany. Look what they're suppressing free speech. They're the woke speak, and they're basically self-sanctioning themselves, but more importantly they're treating their own citizens like second-class citizens over migrants, and
that to me demonstrates
that's fascism.
A Marxist system, a Marxist state. To me, when the citizens are treated as the enemy of the state, that's the Marxist ideology of the government. Whereas fascism, it can be bad. The point of fascism is to say individually you don't matter. The only thing that matters is the whole, is the state, and it's the liberty of the state. So that's how I distinguish.
There is. I mean, in Marxism, there is wrong speak, and you are right in that regard. You gotta understand there's a fine line, because you see that the fascist ideological and Marxist ideological, there's a lot of similarities because they're both socialist in nature. There you do get, I'm not gonna go too far into this because in academia we get demonized when we start talking about trying to parallel them together, because they are kind of different. They are two different types of ideologies. But I see the West, I see the United States as a fascist state. Currently, I'm not saying Trump's a fascist or an Austrian painter, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of nationalism and fascism are usually linked, versus when you look at Marxism is more of an international organization. They usually collaborate with other Marxists on an international setting, like unions. We saw that with the Soviet Union, how they would work with Cuba. They would work with Korea. They would work with China, who are also Marxist, their own Marxist ideology under their leaders' interpretation of Marxism. I studied Marxism at Evergreen. The same professor who I quoted that talked about the Bush's agenda, the Bush administration's agenda with what we're dealing with right now. He is a Marxist. It is what it is. I mean, I went to Evergreen. I'm not a Marxist. I'm not a fascist. I'm a capitalist. and libertarian, as we both are. Anarcho-capitalist would probably be the most ideological, because I'm in an anarcho-capitalist country right now, which is why I'm trying to become a citizen here, and I've been a resident for 15 years. But nonetheless, I digress. The reality is that what I'm saying by fascist and Marxist is currently, Europe internally right now is dealing with a Marxist and fascist, because you have nationalists that want to nationalize on one side, and you have socialist Marxists on the other side. And that's where I said there's going to be internal conflict in Europe. Each country to country, in the UK, in Germany, everywhere, you're going to have fascists fighting the Marxists in ideological war to take control of the state. And this is why I'm saying by the new war is going to be a lot different than World War II or World War I. You're not going to know who your enemy is. It's going to be digital. It's going to be 4chan type stuff, meme wars, propaganda, digital wars. Excuse me. You may even see infrastructure getting targeted, through what is it? The
hacks,
major hacks, power outages, grid lockdown, grid shutdowns, internet shutdowns, all kinds of stuff is what I'm predicting could possibly happen in this type of new hybrid war. That's just in Europe. And the United States, you could see the same thing, because the United States is divided like Europe. I've lived in both countries, both continents, so I know, and obviously in our group we have a lot of Europeans, we have a lot of Americans, North Americans, and South Americans, and we're all seeing the same parallels. We're seeing the same things. We're seeing this division, this line in the sand, where you have socialist Marxists on one side, you have nationalists on the other side, and nationalists are usually associated with fascism. I mean, and I'm not saying fascism is a bad word. I'm not saying it's Austrian painter fascism. I'm just saying that generally fascism is more closely associated with nationalism. Not going to say it's conservatism. What would you say in that ideology, like fascism, if you were to define it in your terms?
I don't love giving definitions of fascism off the top of my head. Maybe.
Well, I mean, because it's not a fascism from World War II. This is a modern form of fascism.
Fascism, I would agree that the United States of America is, by definition, fascist, where you have the state and corporation, the state and corporate interests working together. That is textbook
Mussolini's definition. That's Mussolini's definition. Gerald Celente pointed that out.
Yeah. So the Austrian painter was a national socialist. Mussolini was the fascist. The difference there's some difference, but not. I mean, as an anarcho-capitalist, I think they're both pretty similar. There's a meme.
I can't see the difference between Marxism and fascism. I just, as an anarcho-capitalist, I just can't see the difference. To me, it looks it's all socialism to me. I'm sorry.
Correct. So there's a meme that everything that's not anarcho-capitalism is communism. They are basically. You're a minarchist, or shut up, commie. I don't want to speak to you. That's a good meme, but in reality, I find that National Socialism German National Socialism especially has this racial component that's fundamental. Fascism does not. The problem as an anarcho-capitalist is, when you look at fascism, it's like, okay, the state is your best friend. And it's like, and so the loving state knows best and is going to subordinate society. And it's like, well, that's just not true. The corporate state and the ruling, like, they hate me. They're not my friend. Like, they're maybe better than Marxism, but at the same time, this is my non-problem with China. So, in China, power is centralized in Beijing. In Europe, power is centralized in Brussels, with none of the competence and all of the ideology. So at least the Beijing Politburo knows what it wants. The EU Commission wants everything and believes nothing. Chinese ideology, I find to be national, pragmatic, and still tied to reality, with the problems of any flawed system. They're not perfectly efficient. They face the economic calculation problem, as all non-market systems do. But I think, given their model, they are about as effective as you can reasonably expect. They do deliver results, roads, power, production, over just one that delivers slogans and censorship via bureaucracy and banks. There's problems with China. But this Western progressive liberalism is transhumanist, woke globalist, and detached from everything but bureaucratic fiat. They worship feelings and falsehoods. Whereas the Chinese elites, they do rule by fear and coercion, but at least they live in the real world. They're not good, but they have a plan. I find that the ruling class of the Western elites, I would characterize them as evil, and beyond evil, genuinely mad. And when madmen rule, that's more dangerous than the Communist Party.
Yes, I agree.
So with America, I find it to be fascist, or perhaps a better articulation is a corporatist kleptocracy.
We talked about this before, yeah.
Government is captured by corporate interests. Citizens are ruled by financial elites, unelected bureaucrats, and the state. And with America, the state exists to extract, not build. Whereas China, socialism with Chinese characteristics, it's not purely Marxist. It's socialism with direction. It's strategic, national, and coordinated. They have a state direction, they have selective capitalist mechanisms, and they have a civilizational continuity. They have a worldview, a Weltanschauung, which is guided by long-term planning and national identity. America is socialism without direction. So I think that America, it's not, there's Marxist elements because this is the system pigs and this is the neoliberal preferred worldview. Right. But I think the United States of America generally, it's a corporatist kleptocracy. China, it's a national socialist state, or communism with Chinese characteristics. But at least it has this pragmatism and long-term economic planning. It's in America you have corporations over the government. In China you have the Communist Party over the corporations. And what's better? The system that emphasizes most freedom.
Yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense. I think you know a little bit more about China. I've actually lived in China. I've worked in China. It's just they're more. I would say they're more capitalist than America. I'm just gonna say it. And like the people that I was working with are there for a lot longer than me and doing business there. They said they were more capitalist in nature than Americans. But at the same time, I just think it's backwards. It's a backwards country. There's massive corruption, not necessarily like in the government, but just all over. People because it's a communist state, at the end of the day. Business owners and small business owners, they have to go around the government. They have to do different types of schemes and tricks and stuff in order to do business. And they're dependent on, this global trade and commerce, with this global homo agenda, basically. With China is dependent on trade with the United States and Europe, and we're seeing this now with the trade issue, where they're like, well, now China is focusing on Europe because Europe is the largest economy in the world. It's the largest trading zone outside the United States, and if they're not going to trade with the United States, then Europe is the next bet. But the thing is that Europe has an energy crisis. However, like I said, because there's a slowdown in Europe, and you gotta understand, the United States and Europe consume a lot of energy, and so does China. And China's in slowdown as well. All three of these trade zones are in huge decline and slowdown because Europe self-sanctioned themselves with the Ukrainian and Russian conflict, and their energy consumption has depleted quite a bit due to self-sanctions and the high cost of energy. I mean, they're paying 5 times what they're paying in the United States for energy right now. And that's going to take a huge hit on energy consumption as an overall.
That impacts everything because you don't have the same economic competitiveness, especially in manufacturing, but in everything, because the price of energy, it's involved in everything. Food in the supermarket has to be transported there. They need to keep the lights on. All costs. Manufacturing costs rise. Everything is
to produce
derivative.
to produce agriculture requires energy, man. You need tractors. Even consuming food is energy. So I mean, like, everything requires energy in this world. No matter, I mean, what we're doing right now with a podcast, you guys watching at home on your devices, it's all requires energy. And without energy, the world doesn't run, man. I mean, it is what it is. So when we have these slowdowns and we have the people pinching pennies, and with the what is it called, the stagflation, that we're back in again. And I don't think we ever came out of stagflation. I think we had a short period of slowdown in stagflation, but I think it's here to stay. And the QE to infinity, I think, is done. I think that there's no more bailouts or bail-ins or anything. There's no, as was Nancy Pelosi says, feathers in the quiver or something like that, arrows in the quiver. There's just no other tricks. There's no other surprises and tricks and magic tricks and party favors and everything. There's nothing to do anymore. The Fed is broke. The federal government, the United States federal government, is broke. European Union is broke. China is going broke because they're dependent on energy coming in. They're dependent on selling, their manufactured goods across these failed states, these failed trade zones. And that's why I call it the China syndrome and the mega meltdown, because, it's literally, we're seeing the systematic collapse of the global economy in real time. And China is sitting there for the ride, basically, because they're going to be affected too. Ultimately, everybody is. And I've been saying this for years now,
And that's what we almost saw with Donald Trump imposing sanctions. So things are breaking
tariffs,
down. Yeah. Tariffs, thank you. Things are breaking down. There's a corrective action that needs to be taken, or arguably. How he implemented it was terrible. And the financial markets, finance is a mapping. It's a reflection of it's a reflection of the economy. It doesn't reflect exactly. It's not a mirror. There's hallucinations in there. The market does its own thing, but it's signals of information. So when Trump said, I'm going to tariff everyone, even the penguins on McDonald and Heard Island, the markets went, well, then global trade and wealth is not valued this high. It's going to be valued this high. And there were lots of other things that went into this. I actually produced an article on my Substack, kind of going over some of those.
Did you post it in your locals or on the Liberty Rising group? Any of that?
I will have it published to my locals tonight.
Cool.
It's on my Substack. So, so the money and energy makes the world go round. And I know you're a big advocate of the energy.
I've been working in energy for 15 years.
I'm going to say the energy conflict theory of.
That as well. Yeah.
So just to define, stagflation is when you have a reduction in economic output and an increase in prices. Usually you want one or the other, inflation or recession. When you have both inflation and recession, that's stagflation. And this is something in the 70s, when there was an energy crisis, caused significant problems.
The cycle again. Yeah.
With economic growth, and it persisted for about a decade. I'm not sure exactly, but I know it persisted over many years. So, this is not something that lasts a day, lasts a year.
To point of order there for a second, Adam, what caused that? What caused the energy crisis, by the way?
There was a war between Israel and its neighbors, and in response to that, OPEC and the Arabs especially decided to embargo America and Western allies, those who supported Israel, and refused to export oil there, which caused oil prices to go skyrocketing, and the subsequent energy crisis was a major driver of stagflation.
Okay, so hold that 1 second, guys. Remember that. Understand what's going on now. When I said the oil price should be at $50 a barrel by summer, it's the opposite now. But it's the same shit. It's just the opposite. It's opposite day. But we're gonna see deflation in the oil prices.
So I've heard. Do you know what the price of oil is now?
I think it's at sick. I could double check it real quick. I usually check it from time to time. I believe oil was at $60 a barrel last time. When I started seeing the trends of it going down, because like I said, I work in the oil industry. I have a lot of contacts in the oil industry. It was at $76 a barrel, and I was like, yeah, it's probably going to hit 60 by end of first quarter, which is where it's at. Let me check again, but go ahead.
Well, I've also heard from other sources that oil prices may go down. I'm not locked into the markets, so what does do you want to go into
barrel.
now what it means that oil prices might go down and or why?
It's at $62 a barrel, so we're literally 12 points from it hitting not even we're literally like 3 points from it hitting $50 a barrel, like I said, by summer. So it may hit by before the end of second quarter. It's going down, guys. You're gonna see oil tank, but the mechanisms behind it and the data analysis is that plain and simply, OPEC, we have a surplus. Russia has a surplus. The United States is now building a surplus. They depleted it under the Bush administration. Remember when they released the strategic oil reserve? Yeah, that's pretty much been replenished by now. I haven't checked it. I can go check it. I mean, any of you guys can Google and check it. But
Joe Biden depleted much of the energy reserve after it had been filled up during COVID.
Right.
To subsidize U.S. energy prices. I'm not sure. Right. And just I don't know if you can pull up a graph of oil prices, especially if you can get one that's got 5 or 10 years on there, just for some context. My understanding is $50 a barrel. It appears to have not been at $50 a barrel since coronavirus, since 2021 January.
Yeah, it went negative.
But oil futures went negative for a very brief period, but it went from. It did go negative in 2020, in 2020, like April 2020. Then it reached $50 around the new year of 2021. If you could just go to the 5-year or the 10-year there. And then it went to a very high in March of 2022.
Yeah,
and then it's been trending down since.
It peaked during the Ukrainian conflict, during the as you say, special military operation. That's when it peaked. And I said that I told you guys I wasn't on. We weren't podcasting then. I just joined the Telegram channel, the Gonzalo Lira. It used to be called the Gentleman's Club. And I was like, guys, they're going in, and we're gonna see over $100 a barrel of oil. And sure enough, that's what happened. So the 5-year, you can see
10-year.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to 10-year right now for you. Yeah, you can see where this is the negative.
You can just move it COVID. Up slightly on the screen, because our heads are blocking the. Yeah.
Is that perfect. Better? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see here where it negative. It went to $16 a barrel on April 20th, 2020. It basically went negative. And that really affected the Russian economy. It affected the Arabian economy. I remember because you can see going back here, it's at $40 a barrel. It's at 42 in 2018, 2020. This is when I got laid off from working in Arabia, because I'm a specialist, a trainer, field trainer for languages, and this is about time we all started getting laid off, and then all the rest of by the time it hit COVID, this is when the rest of the people, my contacts and the people that I knew in the industry, they pretty much just got furloughed. They were like, dude, we're shutting down. We're going to skeleton crews. And then it shot back up, and in 2022 when the economy reopened, and that was when the Ukrainian conflict happened. I guess Andrew Tate said that Putin cured COVID or something like that, because it just didn't exist anymore after the special military operation. So
can you put your mouse cursor over 2019, that dip? Do that
right here.
Yeah. And just move the mouse up to about $50, like vertically, yeah, just find the 50 mark. It's around there. Lower it. Just point
Right
is, you
there.
can see that the at the big, 3 years ago, the price is kind of oscillating around $50. Now it's been oscillating around this $80 mark. So my question is, what does it mean that the price of oil may go down again to oscillate around this to get to this $50 mark? That seems to be where the price of oil's been, around 2016 to 2020 even.
Well, my expert analysis of what's going on.
Well, you've made a prediction. Oil prices are going to go down to $50 a barrel.
Yeah,
What
it's
is
because oil is only worth $50 a barrel. That's its basically base, and the reason why its base is $50 a barrel is because of demand. Because you have more energy efficient vehicles. People are going to they're using more. You know what I mean? They're going green. Like this is 2020 is like right when they started Tesla started initiating hybrid vehicles, and then the Teslas, and then BYD and all these electric cars started coming out around that time, around COVID time. And that's part of why you saw the dip. There's a lot of other factors involved, but for the most part, the reality is just there's just less demand. And because we have depopulation as well that we covered on previous podcasts. And I had said before, outside of Africa, every country in the planet right now, every region of the world is in population decline. It wasn't like this pre-COVID, but now every country's in population decline. So you have less people being born. You have a higher percentage of a lot of boomers are dying off. Basically, a lot of people died off during COVID. So I mean, like you have the replacement theory, where there's nobody really replacing the people dying, so there's less consumers. And then you have economic turmoil with COVID, where basically the third world starved to death, literally, because there was just no food coming in. And these factors all involved to basically less consumption. Then there's the stagflation, there's the QE to infinity, all kinds of stuff going on. So it's less and less consumers. People are like, well, I'll just take public transportation. You have the Green New Deal, the green energy under the Biden administration. So people actually believe in that. So they went and bought e-bikes. They walked. They 15-minute cities, as they're talking about now in the Woke forums or whatever. So you have people consuming less energy, less oil. You see what I'm saying? So these are all different factors that are involved in the data analysis. But more importantly, I had said when I worked in the industry in 2011, by 2025, oil, they were worried about us running out of oil. Like this was actually a major concern and leadership and policy in America and in OPEC that we were gonna hit peak oil, and we never did. And I was like, yeah, we'll never hit peak oil. There's so much oil that we're finding. We've got oil finds all over the planet, dude. Right now,
they found new oil in Saudi Arabia literally last week. Now it wasn't much. Yeah. It was like 12 new wells. They weren't, but they find new oil all the time. In fact, we know of so much oil. We don't have the money to go and extract it, but we could.
I mean, the reality is that like there's just so much. There's so many new finds. There's stuff we have a limited amount of platforms, and a lot of people are leaving the industry because of just the furloughs. It's literally like the digital age bust, like I was talking about. You have so many tech workers that are disadvantaged. You have tech workers making minimum wage, and I kid you not, people working in Microsoft and like Google and these different people working on the garage, whatever, like independents. You have people working in IT that are making like minimum wage if they can find a job, and if they can find a job, it's part time. So I mean, like it's just like that in the oil industry now. So you have people that literally they're just going into work. They're going to truck drivers. They're going back to school. They're going different, obviously I'm doing podcasting and I went back to university because I go from like working oil back to, teach at university. I worked as an auto mechanic for a little bit, even though I have a PhD, working as an auto mechanic, working in agriculture, it's like, dude, I'll take whatever work I can find, you know what I mean? That pays well. So, this is what's going on in the oil industry, the energy industry. There's a lot of people are leaving and they're going to different job fields, just like in the IT industry, it's just, this is what's happening.
So oil prices go down. Isn't that a good thing? I'm tired of paying so much for my energy. Isn't it? Is it a good thing that oil prices go down? What does it mean?
I mean, it's good for the consumer. It's good for the small business owner. It's good for the agriculturalist. Because agriculture uses a lot of energy. But what it's bad for is the economy, because like if you have negative oil prices, it generally is an indication that there's a slowdown in the economy. It usually indicates a recession. And that was the other point. Let me go ahead and bring the graph back up. We'll go back to the big window. You could see, now listen to me on this one. I had said, and this might be conspiracy, I was saying that we're going to hit a recession before COVID, and that COVID was used as a smokescreen. I'm not saying that they created, that they used COVID in order to, guise it, but generally the government, like leadership, they'll find a scapegoat, or they'll find
let a good crisis go to waste.
There you go. That's basically what I believe happened. As you can see, the oil prices, because they started to, you see here as I'm putting over the cursor, you can see from December 2019, right? They didn't have lockdowns then.
Taiwan reported the coronavirus to the WTO December 31 or 30, 2019.
Right. But they didn't start implementing lockdowns and policies and stuff until like basically
February, March.
Yeah, towards the end of first quarter. So you started to see this sudden drop. And then COVID, February 17th, where it went back up a little bit. Now, if there was COVID lockdowns in there,
dead cat bounce.
Dead cat
bounce
down,
goes up a little, and it goes.
Yeah. But not in oil so much. Oil is a commodity, and like it's just if there's demand, if it is what it is. But it just suddenly dropped. You can see where it just dropped. I think that if there wasn't a if there wasn't lockdowns and they just treated it like Obama did with the swine flu, which is back here 2000.
No,
swine flu was
the bag, was it not?
It was 2017. I can't go back. I go 25 years. Oh no, it won't let me. Never mind. Anyway, so the reality is I think it would have went down anyway, and it would have stayed probably about right here at $41 a barrel, 2020 when it rebounded back up. I think we were headed into recession, going into COVID, and they used COVID, like I said, as a crisis to say, okay, the market crash is a result of COVID and lockdowns and all this, and then we're going to give, instead of giving bailouts to companies, we'll give bailouts to everybody, and they just use it as a tissue. But I mean, yeah. So I mean, literally, what they did was it was a redistribution of wealth to like basically the wealthy. And I've watched a couple influencers so far coming in this podcast, and they made some valid points. I don't know who exactly they were, but or at least I don't have the information in front of me. I just remember photographic memory of like what they were saying, and the gist of what they were saying is basically there was a huge, the rich got richer as a result of it, and even Gerald Celente says this.
Sure, absolutely. That's the purpose of central banking, as well as something called the Cantillon effect, which says that the first recipient of the new money supply has the closer you are to the source of money creation, the more you benefit. So what did they do? The government, they gave the money to the corporations via buying their bonds and their friends and the ultra wealthy, and then it kind of came down to everyone else. But it first goes to the ultra wealthy, the corporations, the entrepreneurial class, the shareholders, everyone else, and you got Trump bucks or whatever it was. It paled in comparison. Asset prices through the roof.
Yeah. So the Trump UBI was the $1,000 give me that, PPP.
Well, they printed 80% of US dollars in circulation. Yeah, I mean, an insane amount.
Yeah. He outspent all presidents before him combined, including Obama.
And I just posted on my Telegram channel that the federal spending is higher since President Trump took office than any other president before. Then Biden,
Right.
then Trump. In the first 90 days of first 80 days of presidency, he spent almost $2 trillion.
Right. Now,
154 billion more than Biden 2024.
Right. So Lupiter had predicted he like a year ago. I'll find it. We got to put all this stuff into like one little wonderful like little short. And he said that Trump would outspend himself. And from the previous administration, it was kind of funny how he said it, because it was kind of comedic, but at the same time it was literally. And he said he was like, yeah, Trump's gonna win the election by default, and he's gonna outspend himself. That's why I'm saying that he's gonna be the UBI president, because history repeats itself, and people, as a sociologist, people generally use patterns, or they're basically their behaviors don't change. They generally consistently are in patterns, and that's like in criminology or any type of study of human nature. People generally, the laws of motion. It's from social cognitive development as children. You learn as a child to become who you are as an adult. And it's really hard to reprogram you after you've already been developed that type of behavior as a child, basically. That's what my dissertation is in. But nonetheless, I digress. The thing is that it's just, we're gonna see the same Trump as last term. We're gonna see major recession. We're gonna see I think we're gonna see a dollar collapse, to be honest. It's pretty much inevitable at this point that I predict in 2025 would happen. We may see a 29 style collapse in the bond market and the stock market. I don't know about crypto. It's not financial advice. It's just entertainment, guys. It's just, I'm giving you data analysis, trends and what's probably going to end up happening. But it's literally just for this podcast, for entertainment. It's for policy analysis and economic analysis. It's not necessarily for you to go and trade and stuff like that. Make your own decisions, talk to your financial advisor, and what you think's best. But nonetheless, like I said, I really do think that we're going to see major market corrections. Housing corrections already started here in Georgia, by the way. We are an anarcho-capitalist system. We're the first ones that actually implemented it here before Melee. And it was successful. It was very successful. We have a new government, and the new government is a bit fascist. I don't want to say it too loud, but they implemented a lot of different policies in their leadership, and that has kind of derailed the economic prosperity that we had under Saakashvili and the United Party. There's still economic growth. They're still finishing. You can see behind me. There's 30, at least 17. I counted high-rise towers. What are these things called? The elevators for
apartment blocks.
Well, they're the cranes to build the high rises, because they're just building massively here, all over the freaking city and all over the country in the major cities. They're building everywhere like crazy, and it's just saturated. And generally we see this. We saw this in 2008, and not just here. They're building in. I don't know about Europe, because we have to talk to our members in the Telegram. Links in the description on that. But as far as I know from America, we had Raymond on, and Raymond was saying they're building like crazy around him in the Rust Belt in Ohio and Western Penn. So, and they were building like crazy in Florida too before I left to come back to Tbilisi, to Georgia. And like I said, this is generally what happens right before a bubble, housing bubble, is the contractors will get loans from the banks, and the banks are kind of hesitant in lending at first because they're coming out of recession, like we saw after the COVID, basically the COVID recession, which I call was an actual normal recession that was due. And banks are kind of hesitant about lending for building projects. There was demand, and that's what we saw with the housing boom. With the bubble that we saw, with the triple, quadruple of housing price, especially in Florida. We saw the hugest rate increase in Florida. Property taxes had to raise because people were selling homes they were selling $100,000, $200,000 homes for $500,000. I mean, in like less than 2 or 3 years. That's insane. That's insane. And those same homes, I think, I know the home my parents own in particular, I think they paid $200,000 for it. And before I left, I think it was like estimated to be around $800,000. And this is over a period of like a decade or maybe 2 decades. So it went from 200,000 to like almost $1 million in less than 15 years. That's insane. That's insane. That's hyperinflation, dude. That's yeah.
It's certainly a reflection of hyper fiat proliferation. Massive.
There you
print.
go. That's better than I do in that.
Well, proliferation means like getting things everywhere, like mass printing. Hyperinflation tends to be where they print because it gets into a cycle. It gets into an expansion.
That's cycle. Yeah.
We're coming there. I mean, the United States of America is spending more on financing its debt obligations than its military. And that is all by printing money. So they're printing more than $1 trillion every year just to finance the debt. And then they're spending trillions more. And again, all of that, everything they don't steal in taxes is stolen through printing. And that's the source of the inflation. So
that gets me to the next point. I'm sorry to cut you off, but the other indicator of a major recession is corruption, mass corruption. We saw this in the 2008 recession, Great Recession, and we saw this in the 29 Depression. And you see it in housing, where you see like in the 2008 recession, we saw the CDO market, the derivatives market, which is in quadrillion right now. Basically there was the ninja loans. That's what created a lot of the problems, but it was because the retail banking merged in with the investment banking when they repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, as I talked about previously in the podcast at the beginning. But more or less, like the problem is the corruption now is in the government. Nancy Pelosi making 50% return on investments during COVID. All these different senators, congressmen making hand over fist money. You had PPP loans being sent out, free gimme-dats, and redistribution of wealth from basically printing money and stealing money from the consumer. And not only the consumer, but you're like, when you print dollars in a massive scale like that, you're stealing from everybody on the planet that holds dollars. So you're stealing from China, you're stealing from Russia, you're stealing from South America, any country that uses US dollars for trade. And then Trump's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and just tariff the shit out of you, blanket tariff, to steal more money. And it's like, well, we'll see how that works, because what you're going to end up doing. And like I said, I'm not saying I disagree with tariffs. I think tariffs are necessary for certain types of industries that you have to protect your industries and your interest in your domestic economy. But more or less, like when you do blanket tariffs like he did, it's really just it's like a meme. The guy's like a living meme, literally. Like it's like just a pure asshole, basically. He went full asshole on that one, or full retard. So basically, what happened is we were that close, guys. We were that close to $1 collapse. That close. And that's why he did it about face. I remember I said the day before we came on here about talking about tariffs, and I said he's gonna about face on that. And what did he do the next day?
Yeah, within one day, but by or before lunchtime. They went in the morning, and the markets all melted down. And this is what my article is about in Substack. It goes through just how that happened, why he did an about face, and it was not I actually, when it was happening, I wasn't paying too much attention. I was working, and I don't have any position in the market. So, I saw in the Gonzalo Lira legacy chat, one individual saying that Trump is, he's taken a major L, he's lost. And I thought, I didn't anticipate that he was that serious. I thought, no, it's art of the deal, right? Impose tariffs, get some negotiations, don't impose the tariffs. But then I watched some great content, and it says, no, this is what Trump's been saying the past week. This is what Trump said on the day. This is what happened. If you're saying art of the deal, that is copium. that is that is delusion. He meant for it, and this is how the markets react, and this is why he was forced to step down and concede. And again, that's the article I wrote, or I didn't write it, but I published it. You'll see when you read it. One thing to say is, you said that the problem now is the government and the corruption. I say,
well, I would say
always
has been. It always has been, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's the government per se. I would say that you're starting to see scamming and you know, people got to survive, man. It's bad. It's bad here. It was bad in America before I left. So you're starting to see the scams. You're starting to see people cheating each other, all that stuff, everything. Alcoholism's on the rise, drug use on the rise. People are getting desperate and hopeless, and I don't think crime usually crime actually goes down during recessions, from what I understand as a sociologist studying it. It generally does. It generally goes down. I think homicide goes up and suicide goes up. That's like more aggravated crimes. Theft goes down. Theft goes down because people have money, plain and simply. But like fraud goes up, tremendously goes up. Until basically people have money, then the fraud just is done. But yeah, prostitution, alcoholism, drug use, that usually goes up tremendously.
I think a major factor behind the 1929 Great Recession was the establishment of the Federal Reserve 16 years earlier in 1913. Right. This is an aspect of the Great Depression which is often overlooked because it's not in the interest of the neoliberals to explain how the creation and expansion of credit, of the money supply via the Federal Reserve, led to a crash, because you flood the market, you distort the money supply, it's overexpanded, it's going to have a correction, a crash. Now, 1929 subtract 1913, that is 16 years. We've seen something very similar with the massive QE infinity from 2008 especially. So let's go 2008 plus 16 years, that takes us to about today. 2024, 2025, depends how you do your measurements. So will we have a crash in 2025? Will it be of epic proportions? Are we in a Great Depression? I think these are all great questions maybe to close on. Right. Maybe. Maybe.
The data's there. I've done a data analysis. I did the predictions. I told you guys. I gave you dates too. I said that we would see the first hiccup in the first quarter, which we did. I didn't expect crypto to do what it did. I really didn't, because crypto's cash. It's a currency, just like gold. Gold's
high volatility.
Yeah, that's the problem with the high volatility. But it quickly rebounded. It's still down from where it was at its highs. But and like I said, this is investment advice. It's just literally just I'm a data analyst and sociologist by trade, and I see the trends. I studied under Joe Tlente. I learned a lot from him. Communicate with him a lot of things. I followed him for many years. And I basically that's what I do. Is I'm a history guy. Like I studied history and I studied classics in undergrad. Did my master's in law. Did my PhD in leadership, and I'm working on a master in management right now. So I'm pretty well extensive in knowledge and this stuff. And I work in academia. And I publish articles. And I obviously do my podcast with you guys here, and Adam. We talk all the time on Telegram about this stuff. It's fascinating stuff, but I don't want to scare you guys. I really don't want to scare you. I'm just trying to prepare you guys that it's I collapse. #collapse 2025. It's going to be a great reset. Here's the thing. Like I said, this is my closing, by the way. You don't make money going up. You make money going down. So when there's blood in the street, you buy real estate, basically. When there's economic crashes, that's when you say, shit, I'm going to start investing. I might buy some real estate. I might buy gold before it happens, obviously. But, you buy gold during the peak, and then you trade that gold for cheap commodities and deflate it, deflated, not commodities, but deflated real estate, deflated things like trinkets. Like I did that during COVID. During COVID, I had the money, the COVID relief money. I got, I went back to school. I had some money saved, and I bought all my suits and stuff. Like I don't need any clothes. I bought nice shoes that were heavily discounted, deflated. Nobody was buying the stuff because they were like, oh, it's the end of the world. We're never going to go back to the office again. And, a lot of us didn't for a while, but now they're making us go back to the office and back to, university. Me, I just went completely online with what I teach now. So I wanted to do that in the first place before the lockdowns. Now I actually get to do it. So I'd rather work from home. But like I said, I bought a bunch of stuff, and my wife was like, oh, you're retarded. Why are you buying this? What are you going to use it for? I'm like, well, here's the thing. This is temporary. It's only going to be like maybe 2 years at most. And I'm buying like some nice handcrafted shoes for $100. And sure enough, when this lockdown's over and the hyperinflation takes fold, this shoe's probably going to be worth about $600. So what was the reality of that? I bought that shoe for $100. I'd never worn them yet, but they're worth $600 now. That's what's that? 500% ROI?
Sure.
Yeah. Just in 2-3 years, like literally 4 or 5 years, or 4 years since I bought them. So I'm going to use them. It's like, and these things will last forever. Like brand new handcrafted shoes will last almost a lifetime, 15, 20 years. You know what I mean? So it was a good investment for me. But that's what I'm saying. Like don't think of this collapse or this crash or this correction or this great reset as a bad thing. Think of it as an opportunity to basically set yourself up after the rebound, because it's going to rebound. It's going to happen. I'm telling you guys, this is going to crash. It's going to collapse. It's definitely going to, I'm like bad news bears, but this is the best opportunity to basically set yourself up. We're millennials, Zoomers. I don't know if we got some X-Gens watches, mostly like for my data analysis, it's mostly X-Gen, or it's mostly millennials and Zoomers. This is a great opportunity for you to work on yourself. Like I said, I teach the Sigma Male leadership, courses, and my book I'm writing on Inner Sigma Male, self-improvement, basically, self-awareness, transparency, and authenticity, or authentic, basically truthfulness, being honest with yourself, being honest with people. Just prepare yourself for this crash. Set some money aside, and there's going to be deals, dude. I mean, there's going to be deals. I'm looking at all this real estate here. Like I said, we look at the 2008 recession. I mean, do you remember, Adam, where you were how old were you during the 2008 recession? You're a bit younger than me.
Like it was where I first got interested in economics. Like,
okay.
What's going on? Dad's like, oh, son, it's a recession and can't do this. Like, what does that mean? Like, he said it so nonchalant. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
But I mean, getting to my closing and my point, I've got 30 different buildings here, high-rise buildings that are going up right now. And I think the price range is between, it's like about $1,000. I want to say square meter or something like that. I think they use meter here. I don't know that. I'm a square feet guy. I'm American. Sorry. Whatever. The reality is that an apartment, like a 1-bedroom apartment, is going to cost you roughly $40,000 to $60,000 right now. I think that is literally unbelievably overpriced. Unbelievably overpriced. I think that same apartment, and this is not financial advice, this is just what the data analysis that I know, and I've lived through the recession, and I've learned from it, because that's the thing about Sigma Male, is you learn from past experiences, you grow, and you become more self-aware. I think that $60,000 apartment is going to be worth probably $10,000 in like probably less than a year. And people don't believe me. People don't believe me. Nobody believes me. Ever, ever, ever. My wife, girlfriends, friends, guy friends, whoever. No one freaking believes me. Even the Telegram group. Like, a lot of people didn't believe me. People that follow the podcast. People for like years. Until the shit happened. And then they were like... Now everybody all over the internet's like, all over social media is like, dude, you know this guy, Professor Red Pill? This guy called this shit out, dude. And like... Now I have people coming on, like Terrence Pop and like big name people coming on. And it's because I told the shit, And I'm telling you right now, man, like this This stuff like $60,000. This thing's gonna be probably worth 10 grand. That boomer house that's worth $1 million, that boomer is gonna lose 70-80% of the value in their home, like overnight, literally overnight. And that home's gonna be worth $1 million. It might be worth maybe 50,000, maybe 100,000. They're gonna lose a lot of money. There's gonna be a huge loss in the boomers. Like you may see, like I said, this digital age bust too, with the that I think's coming. You may see .com billionaires, AI billionaires, like basically be ruined into like penniless, like homeless people, like we saw in the 29 crash. And I named a couple: Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. You may see these billionaires basically go bankrupt. Very could well happen. You could see, I'm just saying. I said this a year ago. We don't know, but that's my closing. That's all I'm going to say on that. Just prepare. You will be able to take advantage of this stuff if you are well prepared and you listen to me for the last 2 years. Not financial advice. I'm giving you life advice, dude. That's what I'm giving you. And I'm not some like Kawasaki, like rich dad, poor dad, asshole, whatever. I am an educator, but the thing is I mean, and I'm like I said, I don't want to be like egotistical here, but I know data really well. I studied legal research, data analysis, micro, macro, quantitative and qualitative study. I've done the data. It's there. It's just the time, and anything with time on an infinite timeline. And we see the history and we see these things that happen like this, what we saw with the chart that we saw, the 10-year chart. It does these things, man. It rebounds, it goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways, it goes side to side, all this stuff. So I'm just telling you it's coming. And it's coming close. Like
there's key levels of significance.
Yeah.
Key patterns and key things to watch out for.
Right. What do you got for closing remarks? And we're gonna finish this out. We're at 1 hour and 16 minutes.
Oh, I think it's been a great episode. I think we have demonstrated clearly leadership, geopolitics, and economics. I think your predictions are both bold and grounded. And I think we've covered everything we want to cover. Yeah. So be sure to follow on Telegram, Locals, Rumble, YouTube, and Substack, and anywhere else we are available. Looking forward to the next one. Again, we're going to try and make this more regular every Wednesday, and then try and do some others sporadically.
This is like, guys, we're in the hashtag collapse 2025. We are in it. I think we do need a weekly podcast because things are going to change. Things could change daily right now. Like we're day to day. Like I was month to month before. I was like month to month. I was like, okay, we'll see what's going on every month, and we'll come back and visit it. We do like we're literally day to day now. So we have to get to a weekly podcast basically because things are changing quickly under this craziness that's going on. But that's it. I'll conclude. Hey, I'm trying to get to 500 followers on YouTube so that I can start monetizing. And Adam would appreciate if you get him to 500. Rumble, I'm just trying to get 100 because of the it gives me like some creator tools or something, but it doesn't matter. The main thing's YouTube. Get me up to like 500 followers, man. I would appreciate that. If you throw me some shekels or join the Locals channel, even Adam's Locals channel, we're gonna do some collaborative stuff. We're gonna do some deep dives and analysis of pre-programming stuff, and we're going to analyze like geopolitical like movies and stuff, and we're going to kind of break them down to give you like Starship Troopers, Idiocracy, stuff like that, and kind of give you a deep dive of like how Hollywood kind of predicts things, and like you can get, because even Gonzalo Lira talks about this with literature, you can get a lot of good information out of literature, life advice and stuff from literature. But that's all I'm gonna do with that conclusion. Thank you guys. Thanks Adam, and I'm done. Anything else you want to say, Adam, before we go?
All right. Thank you very much for watching. Get involved, subscribe, share.